Well, hi there, and welcome to the Total Woman Show. This is Dr. Barbara Young, and I am excited today with my guest. Would you believe I have Miss Althea Ledford, editor of ETM Media and E-Magazine. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
She is my co-host for today, and we have our guest, Mr. Sean Taylor Duvall, none other than Mr. Handsome himself. I thought that would get you. Thank you, and welcome.
Thank you for having me on the Total Woman Show.
Yeah, we're glad to have you on the Total Woman Show because you were on the Millennial Money Minute show with Caitlin Chen. So we had to have you back again. So
I'm honored, really.
Well, I want to share a little bit about Sean Taylor Duvall. He is a media psychology PhD student. He's also the co-founder of PS Strategic Communications, along with Dr. Carrie Perry. All right, and he also is a digital communications expert. You know, one of the things that I know today, that social media is quickly becoming one of the most important aspects of digital communication and digital marketing. And it provides incredible beliefs for people who are really in tune with what's happening in the world. And it's helping millions of customers reach people that probably they never would have had it not been for media communications worldwide. And if you're not applying this profitable source, you're going to be left behind. And you're missing out on a lot of incredible marketing opportunities. And you know, one of the things, Sean, we're going to talk about how easy it is to spread the message today about your products and your services and what you're doing. So social media has become really the only information medium that you can use immediately around the world. Right. And this show, by the way, is a global show. So we're in several countries. And so I want to say welcome to you listeners out there in all these different countries, because this is a topic that many of you I know are going to be interested in. So quickly, Sean, I've got a lot of questions for you today, you know, as the social media expert, because I know you do a lot of work in digital communications. And I also know, Althea, that you do a lot in terms of your digital magazine, which, by the way, has 320 million
reach on SEO reach.
Estimated reach of 320 million. Yes. Well, I'm telling you, you're getting right up there with Open Magazine and with all the other magazines. So it is exciting.
It is.
So I welcome you today because with your background in media and publications, and believe it or not, she was a former stockbroker too, so I have to put that in. So I'm happy to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Sean, from your experiences, where do you see the next digital communication going? What's really happening that you can share with the listeners out there?
Well, I think that there's a very interesting trend that we're having. If you notice that everything is deliverable and we really care about the user experience.
Okay. Right.
So, for example, social media is meant to interact with your possible customer, you know, or just a looky-loo that wants to see what your product does or service can do. And we want to know why they look at your stuff, why they buy it, why they don't buy it, right? So I think that now with digital communication, we're now seeing that the trend is the consumer is pushing the product versus us pushing a product on them.
Okay. Okay.
So I think that's a new thing that people have to really think about is user experience, and not to neglect the idea of a landing page, which is a website. So I think a lot of people have kind of decided to give up the website and only do a Facebook page, but I feel that's not very smart for you. I think as inexpensive as websites are to create now with all the different things, you should keep that as your landing page and then use that to keep them on with a user experience, with something interactive, right? And so because you want them to stay on the page as long as possible.
Right.
Sean, are you finding out that as people are actually in pockets, instead of all one mass group of people to advertise, you actually have segments or micro target markets? Can you elaborate on that?
So I think that I don't remember exactly who said it, but they say the niches are in the riches.
Yes.
So if you can really find your niche or niche, however you pronounce it, you can find out what they want, who they are, and it's that buyer's journey that I think we're kind of going back to.
Right.
And people are using it more with data, right? Now we have data that can prove a person went from here to here to here,
right.
Whereas before it was guesstimation. We sent a coupon in the mail, hopefully they go to the store
Right.
and they
Yeah.
buy the product, or they give the the coupon to mom, and then mom buys the product. Right. So I think we need to figure out how we use the digital communication with the data to prove something that's true, because data can be manipulated. Right. So when someone says data is the end all be all, but that's not true, because data can be manipulated. What was that person doing when they were on your website? Were they
Right.
looking for your product? Did they see an ad on Facebook which led you to it? So I think we would really be careful of data when someone says, "Oh, well, the data shows this." Well, okay, but what else was there? What's the psychological reason for them going there?
That's
Right?
true. That's true. And how do you sort of tap into the psychology of people today? I mean, it's like it's all over the board.
So I think that is very difficult, which I think media psychology is the profession and the degree I decided to go into. It's learning like human behavior with technology and why we do this, why we don't do it. And I think that's why I chose that field, just to kind of give media psychology a thumbs up for that.
You know, one of the things too is a question I have for you. Since you're getting this PhD in media psychology, you know, I have to say this from being in academia myself for many years. Sometimes academia is a little bit behind. Do you see that this program, will absolutely push you forward in terms of the methodology, the things that they're learning?
I absolutely think it's actually ahead.
Okay.
I think because the school is so active in, so many things that have to do with technology and psychology. Like, for example, like CES, they just happened a couple weeks ago in Las Vegas. It's the Innovation Summit, where you can find everything that has to do with media and technology. And guess what? They want to know how the user can buy this little device that goes on your bladder, and then it tells your phone that it's full. Right?
Wow.
You would think, why would we need that?
Right.
Well, I mean, a psychologist can go, well, I think this is the reason why you did it. Here's a person. Here's our user experience. This is why the psychology behind why they would buy that.
But what does CES stand for?
It is consumer. Well, it's not actually the acronym. It's the
Okay.
Consumer Technology. It's like Summit, like innovation.
Okay.
So that's just what it's known for.
Okay.
But I'm not really sure what the acronym really stands for, because I never found out. All I know is about innovation and consumer technology.
But that's one of the key conferences you would recommend
Right,
people
yes,
attending.
absolutely. And if
Okay,
you're in
awesome.
social media, I would definitely go to Social Media Marketing Summit, and then always attend the Social Media Week. They happen, every year in different cities around wide. But don't get so caught up in all of those, because some of them are $5,000 to attend. You can do them a
Whoa.
lot.
Wow.
You can do them
Whoa.
virtually. Sometimes there's a virtual ticket that you can purchase.
Okay.
Also, too, don't forget there's people that are blogging it. They go to the show, they blog what they get, and if you read a couple of those, you'll get the sense of what was happening at these conventions.
Plus their commentary on it.
Right, and some of
Yeah.
them are experts, some of them are not, but that's for you to decide when you read and you look at the data and the research behind it.
Well, tell me, where do you see all of this digital communication going? Do you see a trend going towards new developments where we'll be walking around in the house? You had talked about this when we were in the green room earlier about having, what is this thing, Versa?
Alexa, so it's
Alexa.
your smart home.
Yeah, your smart home.
Right.
Wow.
So you can have a smart home. At CES they had a Samsung refrigerator, and it literally ordered something for you. So if you were low on beer, it used the weight of the beer in the fridge, and it would automatically order it, and Postmates would knock on your door if that's something that you.
If you wanted more beer.
If you wanted
Right.
more beer.
Right.
Now imagine, now we have everything being delivered to you. Right. You have an app that you can call out to. So your fridge is telling your Postmates app, hey, Sean's out of beer. We must, and then Alexa will be like, Sean, you're out of beer. Would you like to purchase?
Would you like to purchase it?
And you go, yeah, sure. Right? Are you sure? They ask you one more time just in case. And you go, yeah,
Yeah.
sure. And then 10 minutes later, here you go. Here's a delivery guy with your beer.
wow.
Now, can you imagine if the competition comes up into your refrigerator, you're buying Budweiser, and it's telling you to buy milk, whatever some other
See,
brand
and
is?
I think
Problem.
that's where the data comes in,
Right.
right? And the
Right.
ethics of, collecting, and how I have a really interesting relationship with social media and all these apps, because I'm giving up my privacy for convenience.
Yes, you are.
And so where is my choice preference going? And now they made, Sean Taylor is now a persona. Like, this is what he buys on Amazon. This is what he buys on
So they
Instacart.
know
So now
already.
they know what I'm looking for. So they'll go
Right.
ahead, like Amazon already will say, hey, do you need toothpaste? It's in my cart. And I'm like, oh, interesting. I only bought toothpaste once, but it's assuming that I'll buy it again.
Right.
So I'm giving up what exactly? So that's my dilemma with social media and social apps and stuff, is that how much of my privacy am I willing to give away?
Yeah, that
for
data.
for the ease
For
of
that- for- yeah,
ease of whatever I
yeah.
want. So I think with digital communications and going forward, it's where do we decide what is ethical and what's not? How much are we willing to give up our privacy to have ease and to be able to communicate with, me telling, hey Alexa, call my mom. Well, now Amazon has my mom's phone number, her location, where she's at.
Yeah, that's
so where do you draw the line?
That's absolutely right. That's kind of scary.
It
Yeah,
is a little bit scary.
invasive, actually.
Well, I guess that's the next generation to decide.
Right.
They're willing to give up a little bit more privacy and utilitarianism, like better, for the greater good. If we all know where everybody is at all times, if anything happened, X, Y, and Z. Whereas some people, it seemed a little scary to have the government know where you're at all times.
This is interesting that this I'm going to sort of switch a little bit because people in my age category are some of them are a little behind with social media. They're not on Facebook.
Right.
They're not on Twitter.
Right.
And so I just shocked a few gentlemen a few Sundays ago when I talked about I mentioned something about Instagram. And they go, "You're on Instagram."
It's
You're on
true.
Instagram, and I said, and you were talking about Instagram and Twitter. And so the thing about it is that they were saying, well, you're more current than your generation. So and we have a growing number of baby boomers and people
Right.
are getting older. So Sean, you're a millennial. So what do you think's going to happen to us, people in my age category, let's say the 60s, the 70s, and 80s? I mean, what?
They're
is gonna happen?
segmented off into another area.
I mean, it's like, wow. I was really shocked to hear them sort of say, gee, Dr. Young, you got Instagram,
True,
It was
true.
like, whoa, is this unusual?
Well, Facebook, the majority of the demographic are 40-year-olds. Reconnecting, like virtual yearbooks, right? What are they doing? I know what the people in high school are doing, and I don't want to be their friend sometimes I do, right? I have the
Yeah.
option because we grew up with the digital age.
Right.
I also think it's a disservice if you're even an older generation, a baby boomer or traditionalist, that you don't have, and if you have a business.
Right.
If you
Okay.
own a
Right.
business and you're not on social media,
Okay.
you're really giving up a lot of market share for something that is inexpensive, considered a traditional advertising and marketing. So I think that when people are shocked, I think that maybe if they're even older or in your age group or generation, that maybe it will help them go, maybe I should be on it if I'm a consultant or if I have something else. But I think that the more that you ignore technology, you're going to be even more behind.
Two-part question. Facebook is almost an older software at this point, and the millennials, you guys moving forward, Gen Z, et cetera, you guys are more willing to learn and adapt and bring on new software. We're pretty much not wanting to learn anything new. So the willingness to pick up something new might have an influence on how much software
Right.
we actually use.
Right.
I agree with that, and I think that's really important. That there should be a little more, maybe some programs that are free, like after, ROP or a meetup that can teach other people about the new trends of software and
Right.
why. Especially if you're a parent, what do you want to know what your kids are doing online?
Absolutely, yes.
Because
absolutely.
if you're not media literate, then you don't know what Johnny's doing, playing on a video game where he's giving out his location and not knowing.
'Cause you
and
can't
you
go
don't
where
know
they
either,
go.
and you're not
Right,
sure
right,
either.
Right.
That's
you know?
true.
And that brings up another point too. Parents that are older, because parents,
Yeah.
are
Having
having
children at
children
a younger age.
at an older age, so it pays for them to be current with what's going on and with social media and monitoring. Do you think that? Well, that brings up another topic about monitoring what your kids are doing. I don't want you to get into that particularly because as young as you are, no kids. And you got a dog, you got a pug. What is it?
No,
You
I have,
have
I have a French bulldog.
Yeah, your French bulldog. Oh, I'm telling you, and he dresses him up. And
yeah, he's my child.
He is his child.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So it's nice to see that.
Yeah.
But back to social media. How did you get into this, as something that you enjoy, and then so much so that you're pursuing a PhD? What motivated you to just sort of want to go
So
in this
when
direction?
Dr. Carey and I used to design this business, it was about communication, strategic
Okay.
communication. And, just like any business, I feel that whatever people want, you give them. And it seemed like a lot of clients were asking for social media, please help me, you're young, you must know how to navigate it. And I said, well, sure, I use it, I follow companies or brands because of X, Y, and Z. So it couldn't be that hard for me to figure out why. And then with the media psychology as my concentration, you know, I get to learn again data, learning the psychological reasons why, user experience, what's really important. Are, you know, brand influencers important? You know, Nike was going on giving anybody who had, you know, 4,000 followers a little endorsement deal because those people were getting real people following them and really interacting with them, and they would get a check on the end.
Wow.
Right? But now the trend 2019, you're kind of seeing them move away from them because it's volatile, right? There's no real contract that forces them to promote Nike anymore. If they don't feel like wearing it, they're going to wear something else, and you're kind of like, we just gave you a check and you're not, you know, and and then again, you know, they have the control in that sense, right? You can't really lock them down. So again, I think to go back is to keep the trend and to keep yourself really motivated and keep yourself in the know and the new is you're always 3 steps behind. So I go in and knowing that I'm 3 steps behind because tomorrow the trend can change.
It's going to be changing.
You know, the
right.
world is
That's
24 hours a
That's right.
day.
That's exactly
You know,
right.
Japan and everybody's ahead of us. What if they decide and they change the trend? You know, we
You
see
know,
it happen.
Yeah, and that was the question I was going to bring up, Althea and Sean, was about, you know, well, this is a global show, and other countries, you know, because how far ahead are they of us? You know, are you keeping up with the trends of other countries?
Oh, absolutely, especially
yeah.
with innovation and technology. You know, you really want to make sure, especially with media psychology, right? It's learning human behavior with interacting with technology. So I feel it's really important for me to be a step ahead. But, you know, again, like I said, I could try and run up a hill. It's an uphill. So you have to use the data, you have to use the research, use the analytics that you learn to kind of forecast like you do like a stock market.
Right, exactly.
But there's all these external things that can change, just like the stock
that
market.
impact it.
Yeah, so I think it's using your brain, really researching. Don't just rely on a hashtag or what someone else tells you, but really dive in deeper. And I think that's what makes you a good digital communications expert, is that you go and you spend the hours, the countless hours of learning the world and what they're doing and how that's gonna, you know, we're always a step behind in fashion from Europe, right? So it's the same exact thing. Who are we behind and how can we play catch up?
And you know that it can change any day. We could come up with the technology that really propels us in front
Correct.
of everybody
You know,
else. But if I were a small business owner, what would you recommend some basic steps to keep up? Not just be overwhelmed, because it can be overwhelming.
This is very true. And with artificial intelligence, if you're noticing now, is when you buy a product, all of a sudden there's like a little chat bot, like on, let's say, bestbuy.com. I bought something. A little bot came up and said, how was that for you to buy? And do you have time to do a survey or talk to me? And I'm like, is this a person or a bot?
Right.
But by doing so, it made me feel that Best Buy cared about me, right? And that they, even though it was artificial intelligence that was telling me what to do, I was like, oh, that's really neat. Well, on Facebook, you can do that. On your website, you can do that. You can get this little artificial intelligence, little bot, and it basically talks to you like a human, but just gets enough information and then you feel okay talking to it.
So it's not invading your privacy in
Correct.
the sense that you don't want to give out
Just
information.
kind of
Right, it's just kind of evaluating
how you feel about it. It's from an emotional perspective.
Correct, and it's not just like an automated response, like just a standard one where you get like, you know, out of the office today. It's more like, hi, I'm Ann, you know, but you know it's a bot. So you kind of feel, oh, well, this is Ann. Like Alexa, right? I have an emotional relationship with Alexa. It's a machine.
Yeah.
It's AI.
Yeah.
But for
Yeah.
some reason I've cultivated this. So it's the same thing. I think that's very smart.
Right.
Again, you know, that user experience.
Right.
Right.
So let me ask you, and I just want to interrupt you,
No,
but let
that's
me
fine.
ask you, are we making bigger decisions on smaller pieces of information? That's what it sounds like you're saying. They're getting a little bit of information and say, this must mean people are making, you know, they're extrapolating, they're making bigger decisions. Do you think that's going on?
Yes and no. I think it's still really new, so I haven't really to look at a chart yet. You know, I really want to look at it. It seems like most people are just kind of doing it now, so I don't want to say yes or I don't want to be. My opinion right now is unsure.
Okay.
But if you ask me again in a couple of months when I can actually research it, because now I'm really interested in it,
Yeah.
and seeing how customers like it, because I liked it. But I think it's also important to know that because you use a certain social media platform doesn't mean that's where your customer is at. So going back to small
Exactly.
businesses,
Yeah.
you know, is when you use Facebook, you can use a bot to help you out if you're a small business. Your customer's not gonna be mad about that. Just get back to them as you later on. You know, but I would go, you know, every industry has its pros and cons. If you're a B2B business, LinkedIn, Twitter,
Yes.
probably your biggest people. If you're a product or service, again, you can use the Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, but if you're a brick and mortar, you better have a Facebook account.
Yes.
Okay.
Because if you don't,
I think that's good to know.
Because if you don't,
Yeah.
you have no brand, equity with me.
Right,
You don't even have a
exactly.
Facebook.
Right.
Yeah, I know you've been a pizza place since 1931, but
Yeah.
show me it. Show me
Right.
the story
Yeah.
of how you came up really
The
quickly.
story.
Yeah, it's about
Okay.
the story. Like, show me why you're still up, and why your pizza place has lasted this long.
Yeah.
So a lot of to what you're saying is still people want, even though we've got all this machinery and we've digital communication, but people want engagement, and they want to know.
Yes,
they
they
want
do.
a little bit of who you are and what's going on with you and how did you do that.
Yeah, and I think that's what's really important. It's why I really like your show and what you do, is that you show people you as being transparent. And I think that, and you want to create social change. You're like almost like a social justice warrior. But I think that's really important because as a millennial and the Generation Z, they want social responsibility.
Right.
They want you to
Right.
care as much as they do about
Right.
stuff. They want to
Right.
see the behind the scenes of who you are. Are you really this persona that I made you?
Right.
Is Tom
Right.
Shoes really that kind? Does he do that? Like what's he doing when he gets in the Uber? Does he swearing at the lady or not?
Right.
No, he's
Right.
just as
Yeah.
kind in real life because you want to support
Right,
that
that's right.
person
You
too.
do. Absolutely.
So there's
You
a
know?
term now, you're just coming, authenticity and branding.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think
That's good.
again, like every brand has it, and then
Yeah.
we try to change the narrative to make them better. For example, Gillette, their commercial that just came
Oh,
out.
yeah.
Right. It's really changing,
Yeah.
and some people are upset about it, and some people are really proud of it. So again, I guess that's another topic, another day for you.
Yeah.
But so again, being transparent, showing them who you really are, what are your values, and really proving that those are your values.
Yeah. By living in.
By living them,
Talk-
correct.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's great. I mean, to have this discussion and for the viewers out there, international, to know where are we going with all this digital communication and what portends the future. And as it relates to digital magazines, because that's something you're in. Now
Right.
I'm kind of really turning the tables
I know,
on you
right.
and saying, okay, what do you see trending with digital communications as it relates to magazines?
I see purpose-driven content. I see people they don't want to be entertained. They want to know if I'm going to take the time to read this, what difference is it going to make, or else I'm not going to shift my attention. So they really want to know if then scenarios. So we try to add connectivity, bring in tribes of people in interesting groups that are collected together, and then turn it into an action. Not just talk about something terrible happened, and then we're going to talk about it, and then no end result. But let's take that information and let's move it to the next level and have it become an action. So I think that's what they're interested in, and these millennials and the Gen Z. I know you don't like being called millennials, but the Gen Z, and they are interested in making an absolute difference in what's going on. They want to know what's going on, not just be entertained by the information. I mean.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with that. So anybody that I come into contact with, when they ask me, hey, what can I do to get my brand, become a brand online? And I've never done an Instagram, I don't know what to do. And it's just be authentic, be you, don't change. You'll learn as you go. And there's tons of people, like I'm a person that can help, but there's
Right.
other people that can help, right? And then they're out there and you use them.
Yes.
You use them for help. There's tons of websites that also can give you badges or certificates to help you learn. Right.
That, and I feel it's so, I mean, we could have this conversation on and on and on, Sean, because you're so informative about digital communication, and I'm glad to be able to work with you too, with, advancing people in digital communications. And one of the things I wanted to ask you as we close up the show, where do you see yourself going with the PhD in communication? Media psychology, I should say.
So the one thing that I've always been told was that, a lot of things can be taken away from you, but your knowledge cannot. That
That's
piece of
true.
paper, like I may lose my job or lose a home because of recession or this, but that piece of paper is mine.
Okay,
I earned
that's
that.
true, that's true.
I earned my spot in the scholarly place,
Right.
And I'll
Good.
always be in there.
Good.
And for me, social media and media and technology, it's a learning degree. It's a learning field. So why not continue learning in a scholarly way so that you can really become a powerhouse, right?
Yeah.
We're always talking about go to college, be well-rounded.
Right.
Well, I'm gonna be well-rounded because I use my studies to, and then I apply them. So I thought that was the best way for me. It's not for everybody,
Right.
but it is for me, and it's something that I value. And again, education is something that will never go out of style.
That's true.
No matter what generation
That's
you're
true.
in.
That's true. I really want to thank you for being on the show today. And because you have a partner, Dr. Carrie Perry, I'm going to have her on the show.
Yes.
Wait, without you. Because Sean was her student. And he kind of gave her a bad time. Now, he
This
didn't
is
want to
very true.
admit that,
This is
but he
true.
did. And so we're going to have Dr. Carrie Perry on the show, who was a communications professor at one of our California State Universities in California. So I want to have her share her story about PhD in communications and how she taught communications for a number of years and how you guys are working in this company together, a student and professor. I think that's an interesting story in itself. But I just want to thank you, Sean, for the work. Give me your hand. Give me your hand. I just want to thank you for the work that you do and how you've helped me so much. Look, he helps me with my social media, so if any complaints, go to him.
Yeah,
Okay, no.
tell me.
He's done an incredible job. He's done
But you do an incredible job,
Yeah.
really. So thank you very much for being on the show today. We really appreciate you, and I really love you.
Oh, I love it too. Thank you
Bear.
so
They
much.
call it Bear. I got Bear. So I want to thank you for viewing today the Total Woman Show. Thank you very much. You know, share with a friend. Yeah, give me your hands, guys, because this is the Total.
Oh, there we go.
Yep, the Total Woman Show. We got a man here today, but that's okay. We're inclusive. So share with your friends. Tell them to watch the show. We got a lot more shows coming,
Yes,
and it's going to
absolutely.
be fun. I might reveal a little bit, some interesting things. So stay tuned. Goodbye, and have a very, very blessed week, and I'll see you in the next show. Thank you.